Have you ever felt invisible in a crowded room? You speak, but no one seems to hear. You try to be funny, you try to be smart, you try to be someone. But the harder you try to grasp for attention, the faster it slips through your fingers like sand. It is the curse of the modern age. We are surrounded by a billion voices, yet we have never been more desperate to be heard. We treat conversation like a performance. We think that to be loved, we must put on a show. But 2,000 years ago, the Stoics understood a paradox that we have forgotten, a secret law of human nature. It is this: to attract everyone, you must stop trying to impress anyone. This is not a guide on how to manipulate others. This is a guide on how to stop acting and how to finally begin to exist. 1. The era of noise. We are currently living through the loudest era in the history of the human species. If you were to pause for a moment, truly pause, and strip away the physical sounds of the traffic and the hum of electricity, you would still hear it, the invisible, deafening roar of a billion simultaneous signals. We are awash in a ceaseless tide of notifications, updates, pings, and demands for our attention. We carry the entire world in our pockets, a glowing blue portal that promises us infinite connection. By every technological metric, we should be the most integrated, supported, and socially satisfied generation to ever walk the earth. We have conquered distance, we have defeated silence. And yet, look around you. Look at the faces on the subway, illuminated by that pale, ghostly light. Look at the eyes of the people sitting across from each other in crowded restaurants. There is a specific, biting kind of loneliness that can only exist in a crowd. We have fallen into a tragic confusion, mistaking connectivity for connection. We have built a civilization that is excellent at broadcasting, but has forgotten how to receive. Consider the last conversation you had. Was it truly a meeting of two minds? Or was it merely two television sets facing each other, both tuned to different channels, both broadcasting at maximum volume, neither one programmed to record? In this modern landscape, conversation has mutated. It is no longer an art form, it has become a marketplace. We are taught, implicitly and explicitly, that to be loved, we must be interesting. We must be the main character. We feel a crushing pressure to perform, to curate, to entertain. We bring our polished avatars into the real world, wearing masks of success, masks of effortless wit, masks of indifference. We treat our social interactions like press conferences, terrified that if we stop speaking, if we stop entertaining, we will simply cease to matter. Seneca, the great Stoic philosopher, walked the streets of Rome 2,000 years ago, and even then he observed this frantic human tendency. He wrote of men who were breathless with empty business, people who ran around in circles, creating dust just to feel like they were moving. He would weep to see us now. We are so busy trying to project an image of a life that we have forgotten how to actually live it. We are so desperate to be heard that we have rendered ourselves deaf. This is the masquerade we all attend, day after day. We arm ourselves with anecdotes. We sharpen our opinions like knives, waiting for a gap in the conversation to thrust them in. We listen, not to understand, but to reload. We listen only for the pause that allows us to turn the spotlight back onto ourselves, and we wonder why we feel empty. We wonder why, after a night of socializing, we drive home feeling more hollow than when we left. The irony, the great, cruel irony of this era, is that this desperate effort to be liked is exactly what pushes people away. There is a smell to desperation. There is a repelling force to a chaotic mind. When you are screaming for approval, you cannot hear the quiet frequency of another person's soul. You cannot touch someone else while you are wearing gloves of vanity. We are starving for something real. We are drowning in noise, yet we are dying of thirst for a drop of silence. We do not need more interesting people. We do not need more charisma hacks or psychological tricks to dominate a room. We need the one thing that has become an endangered species in the modern world: presence. But to find that presence, we must first admit that the way we are living this frantic, noisy, performative existence is not working. To learn how to truly connect, we must first learn how to stop the broadcast. We must understand that attraction does not come from the noise you make, but from the space you create. 2. The empty cup. If the first barrier to connection is the noise outside, the second barrier is the noise inside. There is a Zen proverb that the Stoics would have understood deeply. A scholar once visited a master to inquire about Zen. The master served tea. He poured his visitor's cup full and then kept pouring. The tea rose to the rim, spilled over, and flowed onto the table. The scholar watched the overflow until he could no longer restrain himself. "It is overfull. No more will go in," he shouted. The master replied, "Like this cup, you are full of your own opinions and speculations. How can I show you Zen unless you first empty your cup?" We walk through our lives carrying cups that are overflowing. We are full to the brim with our prejudices, our rehearsed stories, our defensive strategies, and above all, our desperate need to be right. We approach conversations not as opportunities to explore, but as battlefields to be won. Observe your own mind the next time someone is speaking to you. Are you truly with them, or are you already rewriting their sentences? Are you acting as a judge, categorizing their words into agree or disagree before they have even finished the thought? Most of us are not listening. We are reloading. We are sprinters in the starting blocks, muscles tensed, waiting for the split-second gap in the audio where we can launch our own brilliance into the air. This is the tyranny of the ego. The ego believes that it must constantly defend its territory. It believes that silence is submission and that not knowing is a humiliation. It convinces us that to be attractive, we must be the expert in the room. We must have an opinion on politics, on crypto, on philosophy, on the weather. We armor ourselves with facts and trivia, thinking this armor makes us strong. But armor does not let anything in. Armor deflects. And in deflecting the world, we deflect the possibility of love. Epictetus, the crippled slave who became a master of wisdom, gave us a warning that echoes through the centuries. It is impossible for a man to learn what he thinks he already knows. This is the great paradox of social connection. We think that people are drawn to certainty. We think they want to follow the man who has all the answers. But in truth, certainty is often rigid, cold, and forbidding. There is nothing more repelling than a person who has already decided the shape of reality. There is no room for anyone else in a room occupied by a massive ego. True magnetism, the kind that binds souls together, is born from intellectual humility. It is the courage to utter the three most liberating words in the human language: I don't know. When you admit you don't know, a subtle shift occurs in the atmosphere. You are no longer posturing. You are no longer a threat. You are signaling that you are open to being written upon. You are handing the other person the pen. By emptying your cup, you create a vacuum, a space that nature abhors and rushes to fill. People are naturally drawn into this space. They feel an instinctive desire to fill your openness with their essence. Imagine the relief of dropping the burden of omniscience. Imagine the freedom of not having to have an opinion. When you stop trying to impress people with what you know, you give them the permission to be who they are. You become a sanctuary for their thoughts rather than a courtroom for their verdict. To empty your cup is not to become stupid or passive, it is to become porous. It is to realize that every person you meet, no matter how humble or broken, holds a fragment of the map that you do not possess. When you look at them not as an audience for your performance, but as a teacher for your ignorance, the dynamic changes instantly. The air in the room softens, the walls come down. So, the next time you feel the urge to interrupt, to correct, or to one-up a story, stop, breathe, pour out the tea. Let the ego dissolve. Be the empty cup. For it is only in the empty space that a true echo can be heard. 3. Prosoche, the sacred attention. If you have emptied the cup of your ego, you are now ready to fill the space with something else, something that has become the most endangered resource on our planet. We often speak of time as our most valuable currency, but time without focus is dead currency. You can spend an hour with someone physically, yet be light years away mentally. No, the true currency of connection, the gold standard of the human soul, is attention. The ancient Stoics had a word for this, prosoche. It is often translated simply as attention, but that English word is too weak, too diluted. Prosoche means attention to the present moment. It means a state of continuous, vigilant consciousness. It is the practice of standing guard at the gates of your own mind, refusing to let it wander into the regrets of the past or the anxieties of the future. It means bringing the full weight of your being to bear on the here and the now. In our modern world, our attention is fractured. We exist in a state of continuous partial attention. We are fragmented. A piece of us is listening to a friend. Another piece is wondering about a text message. Another is replaying an argument from work. When we look at people, we look through them, not at them. We give them the scraps of our focus, the leftovers of a meal already devoured by the algorithm. And they can feel it. You know this feeling. You know the coldness of speaking to someone whose eyes have glazed over. You know the subtle heartbreak of watching someone glance at their phone while you are sharing something vulnerable. In that microsecond, a message is sent. You are not enough. You are not the most important thing in this room. To practice prosoche is to reverse this. It is to offer the person in front of you a gift so rare that it feels almost supernatural, undivided presence. This is not a technique. This is not about nodding your head at the right intervals or making active listening sounds. This is an act of spiritual generosity. It is the act of bearing witness. When you truly turn your attention to another human being, when you lock your phone away, silence the noise in your head, and look them in the eye with absolute stillness, you are doing something profound. You are validating their existence. You are saying, without words, I see you. You exist. You matter. Simone Weil, the philosopher and mystic, once said, "Attention is the rarest and purest form of generosity." It is rare because it is difficult. It is painful to sit in the fire of the present moment without distraction. It requires a massive exertion of will to keep the mind from running away. But the reward is magnetic. Have you ever been looked at by someone who is totally present? It is intense. It is disarming. It feels like standing in a beam of sunlight after years in the cold. You feel yourself opening up, You find yourself saying things you didn't plan to say, revealing truths you usually keep hidden. Why? Because the human soul is like a flower. It instinctively turns toward the sun. When you become a person who can offer this kind of sacred attention, you do not need lines. You do not need to be funny. You do not need to be clever. Your presence alone becomes a sanctuary. People will gravitate toward you, not because you entertain them, but because you make them feel real. In a world of ghosts and holograms, you have become solid. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself constantly to perform every act as if it were the last of his life. Apply this to conversation. Look at the person across from you. Observe the color of their eyes. Notice the tension in their jaw. Listen to the timbre of their voice, not just the definitions of their words. Immerse yourself in the reality of them. Stop scattering your light. Become a laser. Burn through the fog of distraction. Give them the one thing they cannot buy, the one thing the screen cannot give them. Give them your eyes. Give them your mind. Give them the sacred attention of prosauche. 4. The fortress of solitude. We arrive now at the most difficult paradox of human connection. It is a law as immutable as gravity, yet it defies our intuition at every turn. It is this: you are most attractive to others when you do not need them. We are taught from childhood that love is a merger, that connection is about finding someone who completes us. We browse the world, looking for the missing puzzle piece of our soul. We walk into rooms carrying a hidden void, silently begging for anyone to fill it with their attention, their approval, or their affection. But there is a subtle, repulsive energy to neediness. It is a low-frequency hum that people can feel before you even speak. When you approach a conversation with the intent to take validation, to take comfort, to take reassurance, you become an energetic burden. You are not a partner in the dance, you are a vampire. And instinctually, people recoil. They may be polite, they may stay for a while, but they will not stay long. No one wants to be the life support system for another person's ego. The Stoics offered a cure for this spiritual poverty. They called it autarkia, self-sufficiency. Seneca, in his letters, described the wise man as someone who is content with himself. This does not mean he isolates himself or despises friendship. On the contrary, the Stoic loves deeply and engages fully. But, and this is the crucial distinction, he does not need others to be whole. He enters a relationship not to complete himself, but to share his completeness. Imagine your mind as a house. For most of us, the house is empty, the walls are bare, the fire is out, and the windows are rattling in the wind. Because it is cold and lonely inside, we run out into the street, grabbing passers-by, pleading with them to come in and warm us up. We are terrified of being left alone in the drafty corridors of our own minds. But the Stoic builds a fortress of solitude. This is not a fortress of stone walls to keep people out. It is a fortress of inner richness. The Stoic furnishes his mind. He cultivates his own garden. He lights his own fire. He learns to sit in that room alone and find it sufficient. He moves from the pain of loneliness to the glory of solitude. When you learn to enjoy your own company, you become free. You no longer walk into a room with a begging bowl. You walk in with a chalice that is already full. You are no longer auditing the room to see who likes you. You are simply observing, enjoying, and existing. And here lies the magic. When you no longer cling, you become magnetic. Think of the ocean. It does not beg the rivers to flow into it. It simply is. Its depth and its gravity naturally draw the water in. A person who is self-contained possesses this same gravity. There is a mystery to them. They are not frantic. They are not desperate. They are anchored. In a world of people who are constantly falling apart, the person who stands firm is a beacon. People want to be near that stability. They want to warm their hands by the fire of a person who burns on their own fuel. So, before you try to master the art of conversation, master the art of silence. Before you try to be the life of the party, learn to be the life of your own solitude. Go for walks alone. Sit in a room without your phone. Confront the boredom and the anxiety until you break through to the peace on the other side. Build your fortress. Make your inner world so rich, so interesting, and so calm that having guests is a delight, but being alone is a joy. When you no longer need them, you will find that they inexplicably cannot get enough of you. 5. Amor fati, loving the imperfect. Once we have built our fortress of solitude, and once we have learned to pay attention, we encounter the final obstacle. It is the grit in the gears of human connection. It is the simple, unavoidable fact that people are difficult. They are frustrating, they are messy, they interrupt, they complain, they are arrogant, or they are insecure. They do not follow the script we have written for them in our heads. In every conversation, there is a silent editor working in the back of our minds. We hold up a measuring tape to the person in front of us. We wish they were a little smarter. We wish they were less sensitive. We wish they would get to the point. We judge. And that judgment forms a thick, invisible glass between us and them. We see them, but we cannot touch them because we are too busy rejecting the parts of them that do not fit our ideal. The Stoics had a radical solution for this. It is a concept usually applied to destiny, but it is most powerful when applied to people. Amor fati, love of fate. It means loving reality exactly as it is, not as you wish it to be. Marcus Aurelius, the emperor of Rome, began his mornings with a meditation that reads like a preparation for battle. He wrote, "Today I shall be meeting with interference, ingratitude, insolence, disloyalty, ill will, and selfishness." He did not write this to complain. He wrote it to accept it. He reminded himself that these people are not enemies. They are merely acting according to their nature, driven by their own ignorance or pain. He concluded, "But I have seen the nature of the good that it is beautiful, and of the bad that it is ugly, and the nature of the wrongdoer himself, that it is akin to me. Neither can I be angry with my kinsman, nor hate him." This is the shift. To look at the person across from you, the boring colleague, the difficult family member, the awkward stranger, and instead of resisting who they are, you surrender to it. You say to yourself, "This is who they are, and I accept it fully." There is a Japanese art form called kintsugi, where broken pottery is repaired with gold lacquer. The artisan does not try to hide the cracks, he highlights them. He believes that the break is a piece of the object's history, something to be celebrated, not disguised. We must learn to practice kintsugi with the human soul. The scars, the neuroses, the rambling stories, the awkward pauses, these are the cracks. And if you look closely, with the eyes of Amor fati, you will see that the gold runs through these cracks. Why is someone arrogant? Perhaps it is the scar tissue over a deep childhood wound of unworthiness. Why is someone loud? Perhaps they are terrified of being ignored. When you replace judgment with curiosity and resistance with acceptance, the dynamic of the conversation changes instantly. You stop trying to fix them. You stop trying to win the interaction. You simply allow them to be. And do you know what happens when a human being feels completely, radically accepted? They exhale. They put down their weapons. The armor falls off. We spend our whole lives desperate to be seen, yet terrified that if we are seen, really seen, with all our flaws, we will be rejected. So when you offer someone the safety of non-judgment, you become an oasis in a desert. You become the one person with whom they can stop pretending. This is not about being a doormat. It is not about tolerating abuse. It is about a spiritual generosity that says, I love the fate that brought you to me, and I love the messy, imperfect reality of who you are. So, the next time you feel the rise of irritation, the urge to judge, or the desire to look away, stay, lean in, embrace the friction, look for the gold in the cracks. Love the imperfect human standing in front of you, for it is in our brokenness that we are most alike, and it is in our acceptance of that brokenness that we find love. 6. Memento mori, the last conversation. We have stripped away the noise. We have emptied the cup of our ego. We have learned to stand alone in our fortress and to look at others with the eyes of acceptance. But there is one final piece, one final key that unlocks the deepest chamber of the human heart. It is a truth so heavy that we spend our entire lives trying to run from it. But if you stop running, and if you turn to face it, it becomes the source of all beauty and all meaning. It is the knowledge that this ends. The Stoics did not view death as a morbid curse to be feared. They viewed it as a lens, a tool for clarification. They whispered the phrase memento mori, remember that you must die. But more importantly, remember that they must die. Every person you have ever met, every person you have ever loved, and every person you are trying to impress is a temporary traveler. They are here for a flicker of a second in cosmic time, and then they will vanish. The voice you hear will be silenced. The eyes looking at you will close. The mind holding a universe of memories will dissolve. This sounds tragic, but in the context of connection, it is transformative. Consider the conversation you are having right now. Maybe it is with your partner about whose turn it is to do the dishes. Maybe it is with your mother, telling the same story she has told 100 times. Maybe it is with a stranger in a coffee shop. It feels mundane. It feels limitless. We act as if we have an infinite supply of these moments. We check our watches. We let our minds wander. We hold back our affection. We hold on to our petty grudges, thinking, I'll fix this later. But what if there is no later? Marcus Aurelius wrote to himself, you could leave life right now. Let that determine what you do and say and think. Apply this to the person standing in front of you. Perform a thought experiment right now. Imagine that this is the last time you will ever see them. Imagine that after they walk out that door, they are gone forever. How does the conversation change? Suddenly, the annoyance you felt about their bad habits evaporates. It becomes trivial. Who cares if they chew too loudly? Who cares if they are wrong about a political fact? Who cares about the awkward silence? In the face of the end, the only thing that remains is the person, the miracle that they are here, breathing, existing, right now. When you look at someone through the lens of memento mori, your eyes change. You stop looking at them and you start looking into them. You begin to memorize their face. You listen to the timbre of their voice, not just to gather information, but to imprint the sound onto your soul. You treat the moment with the reverence it deserves, as a fleeting, non-renewable miracle. And here is the secret. They will feel it. They may not know why, but they will feel a sudden, intense gravity in your presence. They will feel that they are being held in a way they have never been held before. Most people look at others as fixtures in the furniture of their lives. You are looking at them as a sunset, something beautiful, fading, and precious. This is the ultimate secret of attraction. It is not about witty comebacks or confident body language. It is about urgency. It is about loving with the desperation of a clock counting down. We are all shipwrecked sailors on the same raft, and the shore is nowhere in sight, and the night is coming. The only thing we have, the only thing that is real, is the warmth of the body next to us and the sound of the voice in the dark. So, do not wait. Do not wait for the perfect moment to connect. Do not wait until you are successful or ready. Treat every conversation as if it were a farewell. Speak the words you have been afraid to speak. Forgive the debts you have been holding on to. Drop the mask. Because one day, sooner than you think, the conversation will end. The line will go dead. And you will give anything, absolutely anything, for just one more moment of boring, awkward, beautiful connection. But you have that moment now. Don't miss it.